Yes, I know. The 2025 NFL Draft was a couple of weeks ago, and a lot of things have happened since then, but I still wanted to do a part 2 on some players who had their draft stock crash after the 2024 season. Some of these guys were supposed to be first rounders, and others were supposed to be selected but did not hear their names. Today we're going to talk about 8 more examples, but before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you want to support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's go ahead and get started and talk about 8 more players who had draft stock crashes in 2024. Okay, so the first guy I want to talk about is Will Shepard. A couple of years ago, he was one of the top wide receivers in the SEC as he played at Vanderbilt and was also considered one of the top transfer receivers in the portal. He decided to go to Colorado and things would not exactly work out for him. But going back in time a little bit, he came out of Mandeville High School in Louisiana and had over 126 catches for 2,300 yards during his career, and as I said, Shepard would end up going to Vanderbilt. He would play his first 4 years of college football there, with his best season coming in 2022, having 60 catches for 776 yards and 9 touchdowns. After 8 more in 2023, Shepard would transfer over to Colorado, where this past season, he caught 48 passes for 621 yards and 6 touchdowns. Honestly, his most notable moment of the season may be when he dropped a Hail Mary pass against Baylor. Unfortunately, Shepard found himself sort of buried in the rotation there and didn't have the numbers everyone really wanted him to. Because of that, Shepard went from a probable day 3 pick to going undrafted, and things have only gotten worse. After being picked up by Tampa, he was released by the Buccaneers because of a failed physical. I have no idea what Shepard is going to do now and if he'll make an NFL roster, but at one point this guy was seen as a future NFL draft pick, and now he may never even play a preseason game. The second guy we're going to talk about is a running back by the name of Damen Martinez. A couple of years ago, Martinez was a 3-star recruit coming out of Lewisville, Texas, where he ran for over 4,000 yards in his career. The 3-star recruit would end up going to Oregon State, where he showed his immense potential pretty much immediately with the Beavers. He ended up breaking out right away, having 982 yards and 7 touchdowns his first year, and then going for nearly 1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns in 2023. After over 2,000 yards with the Beavers, he would enter the transfer portal and become one of the top running back transfers in the country, and committed to Miami. Alongside Cam Ward and Xavier Restrepo, they were supposed to form a 3-headed monster, and Martinez kind of got off to a slow start, but still finished with over 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. Despite pretty good numbers, Martinez would fall all the way to the 7th round. He went with pick number 223 to Seattle, and for a guy who at one point was getting day 2 hype, falling to almost out of the draft was definitely disappointing, and while he maybe didn't have the biggest stock crash in the world, it still was disappointing to see him slide. The third guy we're going to talk about today is offensive lineman Ajani Cornelius. There isn't a whole lot to say about him other than he has a great story. Coming out of White Plains, New York, Cornelius only had offers from a lot of small schools like Howard, Bryant, Hampton, and Rhode Island, and he actually decided to become a Ram. The 6'4", 315-pound beast would end up actually balling out while he was at Rhode Island and became the number 3 offensive lineman transfer in the transfer portal. He got offers from every school in the country and would decide to go over to Oregon. Because of all this, many expected him to potentially be a 1st or 2nd round pick when it was all said and done, but Cornelius was just not fully able to put it all together. He would ultimately be solid, but would never take that next step, and Cornelius would end up going with pick number 204 in the 6th round to the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys probably got a steal here, but at one point I remember seeing Cornelius in some mock drafts to go in the top 60, but that did not end up coming to fruition. Like Martinez, he didn't have the biggest stock crash in the world, but it still was real. Up next, we need to talk about Kobe Bryant. No, not the former Los Angeles Laker, but instead the Kansas corner who has blown up over the last couple of years. Coming out of Hillcrest High School in Alabama, he was a 3-star recruit and would decide to commit to Kansas. He was a true freshman all the way back in 2021 for the Jayhawks, and Kobe would end up having a really solid career there. In 3 seasons, he'd have 15 pass deflections, 2 forced fumbles, and 10 interceptions. This was to go alongside nearly 100 tackles, and Kobe was one of the better corners in the Big 12 and in the country, but he went from a guy who was supposed to go in the 3rd, 4th, or 5th round to going undrafted. I'm not really quite sure why this happened, but Kobe would end up going undrafted and was picked up by the Atlanta Falcons. He definitely has one of the best chances of any undrafted free agent in the nation of making a roster, but it's definitely going to be close. Kobe Bryant was a lot of fun to watch, and he's another guy who saw his draft stock fall apart this past season. At number 5, we had one of the top tight ends in this year's draft class in Jake Brennan Stool. Coming out of high school, Jake was considered a blue chip, and some even thought he could be the best tight end in his high school recruiting class. As a two-way beast, he ended up having 39 catches for nearly 800 yards and 12 touchdowns as a senior, and he's one of the best recruits in Ravenwood history. As I said, he was a 4-star, and Jake would spend 4 years at Clemson. He became one of the best tight ends to ever put on a Clemson uniform, and his best year came in 2024, having 49 catches for 530 yards and 7 touchdowns, and that built upon a 50-catch, 500-yard, 5-touchdown 2023 season. For some unknown reason, combining that in his 6'6" frame, Brennan Stool ended up going undrafted. He was the best tight end prospect who went undrafted though, and he signed with the Kansas City Chiefs. Every year it seems the Chiefs find one of those undrafted gems, and Jake definitely fits that bill. I think he's going to end up making the roster, and will probably find his way onto the field at some point. He's way too talented, and honestly deserves a spotlight of his own at some point. Our next guy was the biggest draft snub of any receiver, and that was Xavier Restrepo. Coming out of high school, Restrepo ended up going to the prestigious St. Thomas Aquinas School and spent time at Deerfield Beach. In total, this guy had over 3,000 receiving yards, 2,500 rushing yards, and 48 total touchdowns. He was only a 3-star recruit, but would decide to sign with Miami. He became really close friends with Tyler Van Dyke, and went on to have a super successful career with the Canes. He had his breakout season in 2023, as Restrepo caught 85 passes for 1,092 yards and 6 touchdowns. He needed to bump that last number up, and that's exactly what he did in 2024. Becoming the main target of Cam Ward, Restrepo caught 69 passes for 1,100 yards and 11 touchdowns. He ended up having nearly 3,000 yards in his career at Miami, but was not able to turn that into being drafted. For some unknown reason, he went undrafted, but was picked up by the Tennessee Titans. Currently, many are thinking he's going to make the roster, and he's one of these surprises this summer for any undrafted player. Who could have seen that one coming? I think ultimately he will make the roster, and will definitely carve out a spot in the NFL at some point, and I was completely shocked he went undrafted, and I'm not really sure what it was. Our second to last player of the night is going to be Kyle Canard. Coming out of high school, Kyle Canard was from the state of Michigan, but would end up going to Riverwood High School in Georgia. He was only a 3-star recruit, and would decide to go over to Georgia Tech. Canard would end up having a really solid couple of years with the Jackets, as he improved from a reserve role in 2020, a pretty solid starter role in 2021 and 2022, and then a breakout 6-sack season in 2023. This led Canard to entering the 2024 transfer portal, where he would decide to go to South Carolina. He ended up having a tremendous season for the Gamecocks, and was a part of one of the most ferocious defensive lines in the country. Canard would finish with 28 total tackles, 3 forced fumbles, and 11.5 sacks. He was seen as one of the top players in the SEC, but for some reason, he fell from the 2nd round to the 4th round, as he went with pick number 125 to the Los Angeles Chargers. Sure, this wasn't the biggest stock crash on the planet, but I surely thought Kyle Canard could be a 2nd round pick. I'm not sure what happened, and yes, it was a little bit of a dip, but it still was substantial in my eyes. And last but not least, we get to the biggest stock crash in the 2025 NFL Draft, and that is Shador Sanders. Obviously the son of Coach Prime, he originally committed to Florida Atlantic with Willie Taggart, but would later flip over to Jackson State. Listed as a 4-star recruit, Sanders ended up having a really good career with Jackson State, and helped turn them around. Obviously he's playing a little bit below his level, but after Coach Prime took the Colorado job in 2023, he'd get a chance to prove it against some better competition. In his first season, Shador threw for 3,200 yards and 27 touchdowns, but decided to come back for one more year. In 2024, Shador became one of the top quarterbacks in the country, completing 74% of his passes, throwing for 4,000 yards and 37 touchdowns. He also almost got Colorado to the college football playoff at one point, but unfortunately, his attitude and ego off the field, and I guess some stuff that happened at the combine, led him to falling far. Some also say it's because of his dad, but either way, he went from a potential top 10 pick to falling all the way to round 5, where he was taken with pick number 144 by the Cleveland Browns. He wasn't even the first quarterback taken by Cleveland, as they already grabbed Dylan Gabriel, but my goodness, Shador Sanders had a stock crash purely because of politics, behind-the-scene antics, and then some say because of the system he was in that was catered to his strengths. Only time will tell to see how Shador will do in Cleveland, as it'll be highly anticipated and everyone will be talking about it, but he had a huge stock crash. But what do you guys think? Today we talked about 8 players who had a stock crash from the 2024 college football season. Let me know why you think these guys fell, if I should do a part 3, and what other topic I should do next. Also, before you go, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and check out the videos on the end screen, including my part 1. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.